Hi, Chris Duff over at Serious Land Capital, vacant land funding partner. Today wanted to go over some notes on ag exemptions, as that has recently come up for a larger deal, and I think trying to understand some of the intricacies on how to preserve ag exemptions is just helpful for the community overall here. It can vary area by area on how to handle these, but to take a step back, I know I remarked last week regarding that much larger K purchase parcel that seems on paper to be one of the best deals that we've ever seen. Just a right place, the right time type situation. We rushed our process where normally we would say no for that amount of funds going out, but sometimes you have to know when to strike. But this particular parcel had an ag exemption on it, obviously reduces taxes significantly. But as we were talking with our broker, he was really ensuring, what's the status on that? Are you going to make sure that you can maintain it for future end buyers? Because it obviously makes it much more attractive. So to relay over some of the learnings here, first, if you lose your ag exemption, it certainly is a negative here just because you're going to attract more focused attention from the county or the city who might be approving or maintaining ag exemptions in the first place. If a certain property already has an ag exemption, you're usually not going to be attracting that much notice or checkups regarding that. And, the county, if they see that they can get more tax dollars from you by, missing out on an ag exemption, to get it reapproved again is always going to be another hurdle, and there's no guarantee. So bottom line, it's always easier to maintain versus getting a new one. In regard to the process here, so for the parcel that we're looking at, we were aware that the current ag exemption runs out on April 30th. And it's possible that we might be able to sell all the acreage off within 3 months. It's, I'm never going to bet on that. Tight turnaround, especially for higher dollar value parcels, really any type of parcel anyway. There's too much variance involved to really guarantee a 90-day total turnaround time for a property. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, what are the effects of potentially not having that ag exemption on for possible future buyers or just for us. And the key thing is it's not really going to affect a tax perspective, at least while you hold the property, because, us as land investors and then, trying to sell, we're not trying to develop the property. So we're not going to be subject to potential rollback taxes as the use of the land's not going to be changing, but, the exemption could wean off. So you wouldn't get that ongoing tax benefit, but not necessarily having to pay more. So in this particular case, we knew that the land currently and previously had an ag exemption for cattle grazing. That was from the brother-in-law of the seller for this property in this instance. And so we were considering, based on discussions with the ag office, that we could have a flexible grazing lease with the existing seller's brother-in-law just to continue his usage of the land. Per the ag office, those leases need to be at least 1 year in length. But apparently, you can introduce some flexibility, hence the name, flex grazing lease, where, if we were planning to subdivide the property into various child parcels, which was our plan, is that as some of those child parcels were sold off and then potentially the end buyers put up fencing for to enclose their specific parcel. And in this case, we actually have fencing along the front. I think it actually surrounds the whole property, not dividing up between it, since, it's all one parent parcel at the moment. But if that end buyer was to put up some additional fencing, then, you could remove the acreage being grazed upon by the cattle in this instance to the areas that haven't been sold off. So that allows some flexibility there. You'd have to be a little creative with the terms of the lease, to maybe have like a 30-day notice to remove all cattle from the property and, not reliant on necessarily seasonality and so forth of leases. I can go into a whole nother discussion about farming leases, which I think are even a bit trickier to deal with. So, you want to preserve the rights of termination while you're the owner, but, you might have to adjust what you might be getting in terms of payment from that rancher with the cattle if the acreage is reduced due to the flexibility of selling up the child parcels. So that was an avenue we were exploring. But then because that just adds complications. You have a relation of the current seller that might be continuing on, and then it turns out, he was planning on just moving his cattle to a different property that they own. So we couldn't really rely on that. So talking with our broker in the area, he seemed to indicate, first off, the county is quite lax here in that, immediately upon closing, just contact the tax office and get them to issue a transfer and continuation of the existing ag exemption. And it would just be a new application. You have to fill out, few brief answers, but the easiest way reliably to go about it, first, again, the property's already ag exempt, so you're not really in the crosshairs of the county, is just to note hay baling. So that usually is always going to be in consistent demand here. We're in the middle of winter at the moment, so the grass isn't really growing high, but you can just indicate, hey, it's open field, flat, can easily be cut for hay. And if the county ever needed to come check on it, grass is growing higher, the realtor's like, hey, we can post on Facebook. If we have hay available to come cut within a few hours, you're going to get a multitude of responses. Then that's just an easy pathway to maintain that ag exemption. So you're saying, hey, that in terms of like proof and so forth, going back to the county, that's usually the easiest one to do. And, really no major concern there because it's basically carrying on same type of usage as it was before. Cattle were grazing on it before, but, now with no cattle, okay, people can just cut the grass for hay instead. Or he was saying, if you really needed cattle to come out here and know some local farmers, even within a day, could get cattle out there if really needed, check up from the county, what have you. But he was saying, it's locally, county's not routinely checking up. He's managed other ag exempt properties and never had a site visit or anything from the county. So, you want to be able to cover yourself from, if there was, truly an audit on your property. But, generally not as much of a concern, especially, again, if you have that existing ag exemption and the surrounding area kind of supports that usage. So those were some extra learnings today here. Obviously, everybody wants to keep taxes as low as possible, keep your holding costs as low as possible, makes it more attractive for future buyers. Just make sure you familiarize yourself with those processes beforehand. If you're not local to the area, find a realtor, assuming you're going to use one for dispo, and figure out what they might suggest as far as maintaining that ag exemption. Just make sure you have all that straightened out before closing on a property. So hope that helps. Again, if you're looking for any funding, we've got a ton more deals that have been coming in recently to wire out loan this week. SeriousLand.capital. Check out Land Daily Diligence Facebook group. We've been growing a lot more even over the past few weeks here, nearly 800 members. So excited to see that continued growth there and how much it's being recommended, not even from ourselves, but other members of the community within land, and landpricer.ai for the most simple and accurate way to price land deals. Engineer should be finished with the initial version this Wednesday. With that, take care. See you next time. Bye.